Welcome to the inaugural Western Bulldogs BigFooty podcast. In tonight's episode, we discuss last week's results, this week's game against North Melbourne, on this week's episode of the Western Bulldogs BigFooty podcast.
Sons of the West, red, white and blue, we come out snarling, Bulldogs through and through. Bulldogs bite and Bulldogs roar, we give our very best, but you can't beat the boys of the Bulldog breed, we're the team of the mighty West.
Hello everybody and welcome to the first Western Bulldogs BigFooty podcast for 2014. Tonight, our guests include VitalDread. Hello
G'day, guys.
Vital. immortalmike.
What's up, guys?
And the super moderator himself, Ant.
How's it going, boys?
Thanks for joining us on the BigFooty podcast tonight, guys, for the Western Bulldogs. This is the first one off the rank, so what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll start off then. Yeah, pretty good. Bit disappointed about the game last week, but we'll get further into that. And celebrated my team getting into the grand final basketball on Tuesday. So next Tuesday, I got a big game coming up, but hopefully we win on this weekend and be more enjoyable.
Immortal Mike, what have you been up to these days?
Nothing much, just writing a lot of PhD work. Nothing else really to be done. And watching my team lose on Sunday.
Yes, well, we're all here suffering the same demise. But anyway, and Ant, what's news with you? Not much. Plugging along. What do you think? The footy's back on now. We're into round 2. Let's look at last night's quick game. Richmond defeating Carlton, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. What do you guys think about that one?
Well, you just stole my line there, Mike.
I did, but sue me.
I only watched the first half, really. Watching it, thought Richmond got this in the bag, so then I was quite surprised that Carlton came back. But looking at previous games of Richmond and Carlton, there seems to be a trend of Richmond get out earlier than Carlton come back. Only this time Carlton didn't win. So
Two teams with a dearth of leadership, that's what I saw.
And were any of you guys surprised? Who did you tip first?
Richmond at first, but halfway through, I'm like, I should really change my tip because I knew Carlton was coming back. But it just shows how unfit Carlton are, that they can't play a complete full quarter pressure.
And there is another game on tonight, guys, and that is Essendon and Hawthorn. And last time I saw that, Hawthorn in the lead. Footy news. What's in the footy news this week? Buddy again is back in the papers, and that's no surprise. This time, Buddy is going on about how the media needs to get over the hype of him going to Sydney and get on with things. What do you guys think about Buddy and the whole Sydney media?
Well, for me, if you're getting paid X amount of money, you got to live up to a standard. You can't just have 7 touches, 1 goal. You have to be that force, and that if you're not living up to that standard, of course people are going to criticize you for not doing that. And of course he wants to get the team involved, but he's got to take the game on and put his head into training and not worry about anything else. Don't let his teammates drive his car. Don't let anything like that, and just focus on training and winning games for Sydney, and that's all he's got to do.
Well, he's already got the beard going. I see he's fitting in quite well up there. What do you think about Buddy and the Sydney situation, Ant?
Well, really, it's a big ask to... How old is he? He's 27 now? About that.
I think he's about there.
27 and a 9-year contract.
Same draft as Griff.
He's gone up there for the money and the lifestyle, so I think Sydney are in a world of trouble.
Who can blame him? Sydney's fault.
Well,
I don't
look,
blame him. He's done
He's done
well for himself, hasn't he?
He's done what any other footballer, I think, in his position would do. 9 years, guaranteed contract. He's probably going to play for maybe 5 of those years, get to about 33, start to slow down. But he knows he's contracted for another few years, so he's guaranteed a job. Very, very smart thinking. As I said, I don't think there'd be too many players out there who would knock that opportunity back.
So what Sydney are banking on is an early win, so getting at least 1 or 2 premierships early with Buddy, because they know that they're pretty much front-loading this contract on that.
I reckon they're going to try and have him as kind of like the Jono Brown, like Jono's 31, 32. Just have him, be in the square, do your little 10-minute run, outside the thing, and just mark the ball with your dukes, catch it, kick goals, and it's worked well for them so far.
But the
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say the problem with that is Buddy's never been a pack marker. He beats people on the lead or using his pace or agility. He's never been one to actually take that mark. So when he
I'm a
slows
better
down,
mark overhead than Buddy.
so when he slows down, what has he got?
Very good question. Very good question.
I think he has slowed down. He hasn't been any as good as he used to be. Like,
Well,
He's no
since
Ryan
his
Griffin anyway, is he?
ever since his 100-goal season, he's dropped
Yeah.
dramatically because he probably felt like, okay, I've done 100 goals, I can just coast away now.
He's
Yeah,
done his
it's-
100 goals. He's got his common medal. He's got his 2 premierships, and he's probably reached everything he could except the Brownlow, which I don't think he'll ever win.
How he
Forward
got his
second
Sydney
base.
retirement package.
All right, and moving away from Buddy, what about the other news of young Garlick getting sacked from Hawthorn? Quite frankly, I'm not surprised. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, as you said, I mean, he was gone. He was a bit of a risk to begin with, so Hawthorn took a punt and came off second best.
I'm really upset that he didn't make it because, like, if you're living with Hodgie, you got a great man to teach you how to be football, but I think the only way he's going to succeed in AFL is in WA. It's very hard coming from another state to live in, Victoria, big. All the best to him, he's going to be playing the waffle this year, so he'll tear it up, get drafted, and then see how he goes.
Or he could be a bit like, what was that boy that was with us?
Schofield.
Very similar, other than the fact he was more homesick than
Yeah.
from the rumours I'm hearing about Garlett. Yeah.
Who knows, really? Like, you hear rumours all the time. You just got to feel sorry for the kid a bit.
Well, he's not the first young player to be caught up in trouble and be in the news headlines for all the wrong reasons. The young Melbourne boy who's been in trouble, Liam Jarrah, who's been in trouble with the law in Northern Territory and had a bit of a rough background and situation there, and his AFL career is pretty much gone. We get to the review on the last week's game. West Coast Eagles versus the Western Bulldogs. Just reminding us of how bad the score was. 21 goals, 8 behinds, 134 points. The West Coast Eagles to the Dogs, 11 goals, 369. Just give us your thoughts on what you thought about that game, Bottle.
I must admit, we always struggle over in AA. It's just the weather, and with a fit Nick Nananui, you could tell in the first 10 seconds he was going to win the ruck, and they showed that the first goal. And just the one thing that annoyed me was that we just allowed them to run from our forward line to their forward line too easily. Like, no one would go to a player. Like, Yo did a 75-meter run, and no one went to him. Like, you can go to him, try and slow him down, but at least do something. But it's game one, season's not over. Collingwood's last place. Look at them; they're going to bounce back, and so will we. So, I've got nothing bad about our team. Just get out there and get wins. That's all I've got to do.
I really thought that the second quarter when Selwood got that ducking free kick against Kamari, and then it went to the other end and a goal was scored. I thought, yeah, that's it. We're gone now. And
WA refs right there.
the boo crowd kicked in and it
Oh,
was
look,
all over Red Rover.
Well, look, there was certainly the weather that came into play. 30 to 33 degrees in Perth. It was a hot, dry day. It was something that the West Coast Eagles are acclimatised to. Then you've got the crowd. Definitely crowd advantage there. I don't think our boys really had the endurance to run that sort of weather out.
It's a worry that we look so unfit, though.
But look, in fairness, when we're playing in Melbourne, it's a different story with the weather. But I think it would be a hard task to expect players to go out there.
Around as well.
Yeah.
So, what were your thoughts on having a small back line? For me, I just didn't think it worked. I know it was a matter of picking people on form, but Wood was giving up centimetres on Darling. It just didn't seem to work. They were able to take marks way too easy.
I reckon that back line would probably maybe be very effective against 75% of the teams in the league. When you've got, Cox, Sinclair, Darling, Kennedy, you have to play 6 tolls, and then you're gonna have no running backs to get the ball out. Like, you can't win against that lineup. That's a premiership lineup right there. Like, good luck. That's all I can say.
Oh, there'll be teams that will exploit that stuff.
Well, really, McCartney in the interview at the end of the game did say he picked players on their pre-season form, but then followed it up and said that they had to actually perform on the big stage. So when we get into this week's ins and outs, you can see the guys who got omitted, I think, deserve to lose their spot.
Yeah.
I guess the good things to take out of the game was some of the younger guys. We had Hunter kick a couple, Jackson McRae a couple. Cramery was frustrating. He could have ended up the day with 4 goals, but he just didn't quite finish it.
That's the team thing he's doing at the moment, kind of getting everyone involved. Because, if he's going to... Obviously, we're paying him kick goals, but he still needs to do the other little things, and he has to learn to tackle. There are a couple of times where he wouldn't go that extra mile to tackle, but that's Essendon's theory right there. They don't really tackle, so he's learnt that. So
Not sure. Kramers was good and bad at the same time. My biggest worry with him was that he seems to be trying to fit into the team, and it's not quite working yet.
That'll take time, though.
Yeah.
I just think those couple of times where he gave it off, he's there to kick goals. Whenever he's in range, he should have a shot. That's the only thing I can take from that.
Exactly. I think he's there. Looking at Cramery's stats for the game: 9 kicks, 6 handballs, so 15 disposals. He took 5 marks, no hitouts. He had
Got a few tackles.
Yeah, he had no frees, but he gave away a free kick, 5 tackles, 2 goals and 0 behind. So it wasn't a bad game by standards, but he could have done a few more. I mean, I think it was
Could have kicked 4.
Yeah, probably just his decision making was questionable. If we look at the actual overall stats of the game, the Western Bulldogs actually had more disposals than West Coast Eagles. So West Coast Eagles had 388 disposals and the Bulldogs had 395. Kicks.
Overused the
Those,
handball.
Yes.
I was going to say that as well. They really overused the handball.
Yeah, the kicks 208 West Coast to 191 Dogs, and handballs 180 to West Coast and 204 to the Dogs. So definitely the handball was overused. Free kicks were 15 apiece. Clearances is an interesting one, 42 clearances apiece. Centre clearances were actually 16 to 14 in favour of the Bulldogs.
so he
Really?
didn't do
Yeah.
anything with it though.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
exactly. From the stoppages, 28 West Coast, 26 the Dogs. Inside the 50s, 60 to West Coast and 37 to the Dogs, and marks inside the 50, 13 to West Coast and 8 to the Dogs.
Well, 13 is pretty impressive for a defensive line compared to what they had. Like,
Yes.
the players they had. And Kennedy was quiet, well, kind of.
Morris,
Yeah,
Yep.
was.
Yep.
that's all you need to say, really.
Yeah,
160 contested possessions to the Dogs, 125 tackles. They had 5 more tackles. Hitouts was where the difference was. There was 53
Yeah.
hitouts to 31, and interchanges was 110 to 112. So the stats weren't actually out of whack as you might think, except for the obvious one with the handball overuse there, and I think that's probably where we came undone a lot of the time around the contested ball.
I reckon
Handballs.
that came from their pressure, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very
Like,
true.
Just was constricting it. I felt sorry for some of our players.
Especially
They just-
Wallace.
Yeah, poor Mitch Wallace was
'Cause
a bit...
everyone's harping for his head, but he got
I have no idea why.
15 handballs, and he was literally one of the only players that was running 100% of the time. Like, he was second, third efforts, and he really looked like he was going to vomit out there, but he kept at it.
Well, Mitch had 3 kicks and 17 handballs.
He's our new Daniel Cross.
That's right.
Only he kicks goals.
Yeah.
Yes. And let's look at the shining light from that game. Certainly, without any dispute there, that would have to be young Jack McRae. 15 kicks, 16 handballs for a total of 31 disposals, 7 marks, 3 tackles for 2 goals. Jack just looks absolutely awesome, and he looks like he's going to be a player of the future.
Steal the draft.
Yeah. And I think Lockie Hunter is going to be another one of those players as well.
Well, we got him
Just looks
ridiculously
class.
cheap, Hunter.
Yeah. Our top possession getters for that game were McRae, then Boyd, Lukey Dalhouse, Lockie Hunter, and Adam
I was
Cooney.
surprised at Dalhouse, actually. He didn't
He
look
didn't-
like he got much of it.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. Like, he would have the ball, and then he would just disappear for a while, and all of a sudden he has an extra 5 touches. I'm like, okay, what are you doing?
It's the hair. Must be the hair.
yeah, blends in.
Well, again, the championship data gave him 108 points for that game, and Boyd finished off with 118. Jack McRae finished 122. Lockie Hunter 103. So you got to question sometimes these data, but I mean, all he has to do is get the ball, hand pass it off, and if it hits the target, he's not penalised.
Yeah.
Stats are stats, yeah. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, what you see is what it is a bit more, gives it a bit more flavour.
Well, the stats didn't really tell much at all, because if you look at the stats purely, we were pretty even with West Coast, but the scoreline obviously told a different story. So that's a good example of any of the stats don't always tell the whole picture.
All right. Well, I think we're going to take a short break here, guys. After the break, we'll come back. VitalDread will give us a rundown on the VFL team, and we'll go into Sunday's game review with. Stay tuned. All that and more coming up in a few moments' time. welcome back to the Western Bulldogs BigFooty podcast. VitalDread, have a few words and tell us what's going on with the Footscray VFL side, who, I might say, started off really well last weekend with a good win.
Well, it comes down to a lot of players. You got Marcus Bontempelli actually destroying the midfield. You got Josh Pruden, the one and only Brownlow medalist that's never played a game. For me, he's been destroying it. The back line was playing really well. Talia was slowly developing up again, getting his confidence back up. Tommy Williams played a decent game as a full forward, but he's still building. Darcy Fort had a really solid game a while ago, but was rested last week. And Alex Greenwood, the rookie that everyone has doubts with, he's actually been dominating so far in the preseason, averaging I think 21 touches. Being a very clearance machine. He's building up from that, and Tut and Roberts, are providing that, and Smith has just been a beast, just basically knocking everyone out the way and getting the ball and becoming that very effective midfielder that we require in the future.
And Jong, I guess, did well since he's getting a call up this week.
Yep.
Yeah, and how did Jones play in the reserves last week?
Yes, he did. He kicked 2 goals. He was very effective. He was tackling a lot. I think he had 6 tackles from what I was told. He's been more aggressive, and his endurance is slowly building up. But time will tell, especially on the weekend, how he's going to perform, especially in a different system where he's not the sole forward, but he's improving every day, and it just comes down to midfielders giving him the ball now.
And how's Jones going with his positioning? Because one of my criticisms of Jones over the last couple of years is his ability to read the play and be in the right position to ball. He usually finds himself underneath the ball in the wrong position.
He's improving that. That's a slow thing because he's only 22, 23 years old. Only got 56 games on his belt, I think. I probably got that wrong. But he's been working hard with Moons, and in the intra-club game, he was running well. He was bowling people and took a really solid mark. And even the VFL, he's starting to get more athletic to when he's back. It was in 2010 where he's like top 5, I think, in contested marking. But, he's not going to be that, body-to-body forward. He's always going to be that leaper. He's going to break away from his opponent, get that mark. But, VFL, it's a completely different game style to AFL. And, if he keeps doing that well, and hopefully it will translate to the AFL system, and he'll become a very solid player working with all the other forwards.
So how do you think they'll go this week against Geelong?
It'll be a tough game. Geelong, have a couple of their experienced players playing as well. I think it always come down to the midfield team. Got Ace Cordy that's doing a solo ruckman. You got Campbell back down forward now. But I honestly reckon we'll probably get a 20-point win and we'll do really well. We play well at Skilled Stadium, so we'll keep it up and put more pressure on for when we go into round 1 against Richmond.
So do you think this is going to be a better situation for Cordy to improve his skills?
Yes, because it allows him to be that athletic ruckman that he's built to be. He's not a forward that everyone wants him to be. The Barry Hall forwards. He's that athletic, around the ground. If he's playing AFL, he would help Minston out a bit, give him some breaks because he can continuously follow the ball. And now that he's got solo, his tackle work has actually improved tremendously compared to last season, working with all the ruck coaches. Yeah,
I do like the fact that we can actually play the players where we want them now. That they're
exactly.
Footscray, not bloody Williamstown.
Yeah, so we don't have him as our key forward when he's actually meant to be a ruckman.
Right, and Tommy Williams, how did he come up? How far away do you think he still is from coming through?
Well, from what I heard from a source in the Western Bulldogs, they're still very patient with Tom Williams. They're not rushing things. He's still on a bit of time limits. But, he played well last week's VFL game. He wasn't a standout, but, compared to what we've seen of Williams, it's a good, slow baby step for him. And for him to get into AFL, the AFL team, he's probably maybe got 4 or 5 VFL rounds to get that confidence in his body. And then, once he gets that, I see him as that full forward that we need and eventually be a swingman, go forward and back, depending on the situations, and then possibly move Roughhead up.
Knowing Williams has still got that tank, wouldn't he be suited to more of a centre forward with Liam Jones not having the tank in the square?
Yeah, he would. He'd be a forward that's a mobile forward. He would just be everywhere. He'll go up, and then Jones will sag back to the square and then they'll break out. But the good thing about Williams, due to him being so athletic, we could honestly play him in almost every spot. Not a midfielder because, he probably got tackled. But he could be a winger, he could come out there and, he'd be very good. He's also proven that he's a good defender to a certain extent.
Yeah, I think
as long as he can stay on the field.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only concern we have. And from what I've seen from him, and his shoulder injuries are not necessarily bugging him that much. But look, if anyone that has an injury, you're always going to have that mental and physical battle with the injury. But eventually, physically he's now fit, but mentally, he's got to get that confidence going.
You were saying, Mike?
I just think he's a centre half back. I'm not sure why we're playing him forward.
You don't have a
He's the
forward.
type. It frustrates me a little.
Look, I think with the problems he's had with his injuries and playing in the back line, it's a very hard position to play. And I think what they're doing, they're looking at bringing up Talia and Young through to those roles, centre half back. I think Talia is going to be the next centre half back. Is he
I
Grant
don't
for that
think-
position or?
He should be.
I
It's a
thought
bit
I
of
see him
both.
more as a replacement for Dale Morris as more that stopper because he doesn't quite have that class.
If he
of
works on
disposal.
his athletic ability and his running, kind of like his brother Daniel, he will be able to be that like that defender that we need. But as Ant says, he's going to be that Morris replacement. He's a very good shutdown player, and he's just going to improve on the smaller things like his kicking, which has improved tremendously. It's
That still looks
amazing
horrible.
what the club has done with his kicking. But time will tell.
I
for
think
sure.
I think he's a lot like Clay Smith, that his kicking looks worse than it actually is.
True.
Like, it just looks terrible off the boot, but it normally gets roughly where it's supposed to be.
Seems to be a common theme for players for the
Jared,
Dogs having such a
Jared
bad
Grant
kick.
has a funny kicking style
Yeah,
as well.
yeah,
He
he's
holds
I
it
another
kick
like
like
an egg.
Grant. It's a really
Yeah,
bad kick.
But you have to look at Jared Grant's field kicking. It's actually very, very good. So
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It is, and speaking of injuries, I think Jared Grant is still out injured.
yeah, we really miss him. He just adds that bit of X factor to our forward line. That game against Carlton last year when he touched him up, he really showed us what he can do when he has some confidence and some run.
Love that game. That
I
was-
honestly now regret calling him the Jack Watts of Western Bulldogs. He has proven to me that, if he follows Brendan McCartney's game style, he's going to become a very good player, and he proved it.
He's
And I'm eating my words. That's what I'm saying.
he's a confidence player. He is a confidence player,
Yeah.
Grant. He's very much. And looking at the injuries, he's got a foot problem, and he's still going to be expected to be 1 to 2 weeks away. I'd say realistically probably 3. And young Daniel Pearce is out for 3 to 4 months with a knee. So, but all right. Now that leads on to Sunday's game against North Melbourne at Etihad Stadium at 4:40 p.m. God, I've got to hate this. How we keep getting twilight games. But
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
talked about it on the vlogcast, just how much I hate the Sunday games. They're terrible. And people always crap on about us, how we don't get good crowds. I mean, you play Essendon Collingwood on a Sunday night, they'll get a smaller crowd than normal.
Yeah.
It's just a horrible time slot.
it is. It is. I mean, look, Sunday afternoon isn't too bad, but when you start talking about Sunday night, people want to get ready for the work. They want to be family commitments. It's it's just hard. I just don't agree with fixturing at 4:40 on a Sunday night. And
It's purely done for the TV though, so
Exactly.
they don't give a crap about the fans. They care about getting the TV.
They give a crap about
You
the
would-
fans at home, not the ones that actually turn up.
Yeah.
Well, when you have 14 home games on a 14 Sunday games, and you're expecting to get a crowd of 30, 40,000, you're just literally just silly. You're going to get 20,000 at least if you're lucky.
Just on that and the whole equalisation thing, the amount of times a team plays on Foxtel and not on free to air and in a poor
Oh,
time slot, should we be getting compensated for that?
Certainly should.
Exactly,
'Cause-
because if you look at most of the games that are fixtured for the Dogs in that time slot, it's either Foxtel or you just don't get to
Yeah.
see it.
we have
Maybe
11
that should be
games on
paying us.
Foxtel.
We should get a discount on Foxtel being Bulldogs. shouldn't we?
Foxtel discount. Yeah.
Oh, they should sponsor the Dogs or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I think so. I probably agree with that one.
The Mission Foxtel Western Bulldogs.
All right, now looking at the emissions and ins for this week. Back is the captain Ryan Griffin, young Liam Jones, Tom Young and Ling John, and making way for those guys are Adam Goods, Tory Dixon and Tom Campbell. I think it'll be very important for the midfield to see the Master Griffin back. What do you guys think?
Well, Griffin was missed. He just has that. Well, he's a star, so he's got the inside ability now. We all know he can break lines. I think the outs were good. Pardon the pun. Goods had a shocker. Campbell didn't do much. I thought Tory was okay, but I think we've got enough small to medium forwards in the team, so he had to make way.
I just don't think Tory was anywhere near as effective last week, and I saw some of his game, and he was shut down very, very quickly and very early, so he was very ineffective in the game.
Sorry with
But-
Dixon was he wasn't very good during pre-season either, and I'm not sure how he got a game.
he did all right to my standards. Like he was paid to do what he was. He didn't kick as many goals, but he was, running around that forward line that we required. But obviously, Brendan McCartney knows a lot more than me. So
Certainly.
It's good to see John get a game. So I'm just wondering what position he's going to play in. We're missing that half back, but I don't think his disposal is good enough to play that role.
No, and I think that's why Higgins was playing across the halfback last week. Which I think actually the championship data was a bit cruel to him, but then again he did make a number of blues because he had a lot of the ball last week, Sean Higgins. He had 13 kicks and 10 marks, so that's not a bad return for Sean playing out a full game.
But yeah, I hope Lynn actually cements a spot because he's got a lot of endeavour. He's great at the contested ball, great size to him, so he's got that tall
Seems a pure
midfielder's body.
midfielder to me.
How tall is he? 190?
Just
at 188, I think it was.
188. Well, he's the same size as Matthew Croft, and he was our full back. Someone that size with that ability, as soon as he learns how to kick the ball properly, he's going to be a real good player for us.
There's one thing that I think a lot of people notice, because obviously we didn't have Griff last week, and that Liver was like shut down out of the game. Now that Griff's back, you will see Liver get back to his, last year's form, because
Isn't
they'll
it
go to.
hilarious, though,
Yeah.
that you can get 27 disposals and be shut down out of a game?
That's what everyone was saying. He wasn't as effective compared to his
Yeah.
other standards.
But I
Shows you
just
how
think
good he is, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
definitely.
but he'll be extra effective now that they've got Griff in there because he's got that outside runner that he can pass to now, and Griff can just go, all right, I'm going to be the captain. Give me the ball. I'm going to get
Yeah.
this. Some.
You would
Pretty
you
much
would
all of
expect.
last
Sorry.
year. So pretty much all of last year.
Yeah.
Well, you would expect Griff to pick up the hard tags, and that's certainly what happened towards the end of last year for that run of the last few games when Libba was so dominant. Griff was getting the tags, which effectively freed Libba up to do the damage.
But Griff has been getting the hard tag for the last couple of years, and he's just been beating us.
He has, and especially the
It's-
last year.
Except for Crowley. Crowley's the only one who tends to get him.
Oh, no, that was the don't worry.
But yeah, what can I say about Griff? Disappointed in Cooney's game. I thought he just didn't seem to be. I don't know if it was the heat, but he didn't seem to have that run that he had in the preseason.
Especially his goal that he turned around for the snap where he could have lined that up. That was a bit frustrating.
Rick
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
went through my television at that point.
So predictions for the game against North Melbourne.
Well,
How do you think we'll go?
Mike, what's your tip on the game, and where do you see the key matchups?
I personally think, I hope Petrie doesn't kick 8.
There's no magic door. We're okay, guys.
No magic door. Oh, fantastic. I'm hoping Griff gets off the leash a bit. I'm hoping our midfield actually wins a contested possession this week. If that all goes to plan, I still don't think we quite have the firepower to beat them. I think maybe most likely go down by about 10, 15 points. If all goes right. A little bit pessimistic, I'm sorry to say.
All right, and VitalDread, your prediction.
It's tough because you look at North Melbourne's lineup and you think to yourself, who am I going to tag? Who am I going to shut down? You got Del Santo, Pasternak, Zeeble, Harvey. You got Wells that can run in the midfield, and Thomas. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the midfield. If your midfield wins, you get to the forward line, you close it down. But I reckon we're going to bounce back strong, and I reckon we're going to win by about 25 points. I haven't seen enough of North Melbourne to have any vote of confidence that they're going to have a good year this year.
And Ant, your prediction.
I think agree with VitalDread that North Melbourne's midfield is good, but they're very much one-way runners. I think one thing if we can get the contested ball, we can lock down hard, we can hit them hard. We might be in for a sniff. They don't have a decent tagger, so Griff is going to have a day out. And really, I know it may sound like a Bay 13 thing, but if we're there at three-quarter time, look out.
I'll tip us by under 2 kicks, so by about 10 points. All right, so I think that's 3 in favour and 1 tipping North Melbourne. If I'm not correct,
I'm sorry,
correct.
guys.
Get out.
Never mind. Okay, and
We're hopeless optimists.
before we wrap up tonight, we've already had one game completed for round 2. That was Richmond defeating Carlton by 12 points. Tonight we have half time. Hawthorn 9-3-57 to Essendon 3-7-25. Your tips, guys? Hawthorn to finish out.
I'm hoping.
I gave Essendon a bit of a chance because they're still going to be up at the moment while they've still got all their players on the field before the Asada Banhammer smacks them down.
Hey, that affects us
So
as well, remember?
Tomorrow afternoon, St Kilda GWS at Etihad Stadium.
Nil all draw.
I think, well, it's St Kilda's midfield actually stood up against Melbourne. I thought Melbourne would get them on the fact that none of the Saints midfielders are in. This week, GWS's midfield is that much better than Melbourne's, and they have a working forward line. That's one thing that Melbourne fell down with. So I think GWS easily.
Right.
I
Dread.
think the Saints showed some spirit last week, though.
I reckon hands down. I reckon Giants going to get up, and watch out for this young bloke called Josh Kelly. He's first game for Giants, and with that midfield lineup, they're going to have. That's just a scary thought. And with their experienced players that they brought in, they showed last week that they're dominant. And Shane Montford's going to give them the ball, and they're just going to absolutely destroy St Kilda by 104 points.
I'm actually tipping GWS by about 15 points. All right, moving on to the next game, Port versus Adelaide, the big derby, the West Horseham crap fight as it's commonly referred to on the Bay at Adelaide Oval. Showdown number 55,000. I'm tipping Port Adelaide on this one. I just think they look really good at the moment.
Yeah, Port Adelaide have got, for me as well, that they're really showing they are a class above Adelaide. The only thing that's probably going to keep the Crows in is previously the showdowns have been pretty close. So I think the Ferals come out in West Horsham and they start going at each other. So
Fancy
and also
a Western Bulldogs podcast talking about ferals.
Oh, there we go.
yeah, well, I guess we know what they are, don't we? The good thing is it's now going to be played at first game at Adelaide Oval. Yeah, so Port for mine.
Dread.
I go Port. I saw a
Port.
stat that they got 134 more points in the fourth quarter than any other team last year. Combined. You know, they killed Carlton last week in the fourth quarter, and they're going to do it again.
Immortal Mike, your tip.
Gonna have to go Port there. I think they're actually a quality side now. You can almost say that. Very surprising quality side.
All right, Saturday, another 4:40 game. This is Fremantle versus the Gold Coast Football Club. Could be quite interesting, but I would expect Fremantle to get up over Gold Coast at Patterson.
Fremantle by how much? I don't think the Gold Coast are going to do it. They're still a young side, and young sides are inconsistent sides. Having to travel over to WA and play a seasoned team like Fremantle.
Okay.
I'm going the dark horse here. I'm going to go with the Suns. I'm not going to attempt to say his last name, but their first round pick begins his career there. But I don't know. You can't really stop Gary. It's very hard to stop. And I just reckon their forward line has improved a lot, and I reckon they're going to get over the top.
Definitely gonna have to go Fremantle. Fremantle's the seasoned quality side there. I think Gold Coast will give a good account of themselves there.
So Fremantle definitely looking at favourites to be there in September again. All right, Saturday at 7:40 p.m. at ANZ Stadium. It's Sydney v Collingwood. Your predictions, guys?
Sydney. I reckon Sydney's going to get up, and I reckon Bio Franklin's going to kick 1 goal and 6 points.
Can we close up the stadium and leave him in there?
1 goal.
Possessions 10. That's all he's going to get.
Ant, what do you think?
Collingwood for me. I just don't think Sydney have quite settled yet with Buddy, and there's still a bit of rumblings going around. I think they're going to only kick in probably mid-season. We'll see Sydney come back to what they were, but right now I think they're in trouble.
It's a story we've seen before, hasn't it? Barry Hall and the Bulldogs. We had similar, not disharmony in the club, but we struggled to find, or they struggled to find that right mix of where Barry needed to be, and started bombing the ball to him, and it wasn't working. So it took a while to work out. And Mike, what's your prediction?
Personally, I think it's going to be about which team has the most pride, because they both came off from terrible performances last week. I think, honestly, it has to be Sydney. Sydney's always had more pride than Collingwood. We'll just go with that one.
And I'm going with Collingwood. Collingwood tend to play better against Sydney up at ANZ Stadium. I think they've won the last couple of games up there against Sydney. And we're going to see a whole media meltdown in Sydney with 2 losses.
There are a few milestones about this game. The greatest spud of a captain, Nick Maxwell, gets 200 games. That's to him. But I still reckon Jeddos is going to be unleashed, and he's going to destroy. And congrats to Jesse White, first game against Swans.
hopefully, he kicks a bag and, proves that he's going to be a forward that they're going to require. He's got the tattoos for it, so, he's settled in quite well.
So you
Fits
know
in
that
well.
means we have to win, because if Collingwood win and we win, that puts North last on the ladder.
Yep, we got to do that.
All right, Brisbane and
That'd be
Geelong
awesome.
up at the Gabba. I'm tipping Geelong for that one.
I reckon I'm just going to go with Brisbane. I'm going with some dark horses this week. I tipped Giants in the first round and I won that, so I'm pretty happy. But I just have this feeling that Brizzy's going to get up. They play well at home, and they came back against, I think it was Crows last year, so I reckon they're going to do well.
Mike,
Geelong.
Vitals.
Sorry, mate.
that's all right.
Vital stealing my my idea right there. I was actually going to tip Brisbane myself. I think they've had the wood. They've had the wood over Geelong the last couple of times. They almost beat them at home last year, and they did beat them at the Gabba last year, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, and Ant, what's your prediction?
I disagree with my other two colleagues here. I'm going to go the Cats, and Cats easily.
So, okay, that's two. And last game, Sunday at 3:20 at the MCG, we'll see Melbourne take on the West Coast Eagles, and I think it's probably a foregone conclusion that the West Coast Eagles should comfortably win that one.
I don't reckon it has a big loss to Melbourne. I reckon probably 50-point loss, and everyone would ask for Paul Roos's head, and then everyone would tell Paul Roos, what are you doing? And be like, don't worry, guys, we've still got Jack Watts. 2 years.
That's right.
I think West Coast are going to win by the amount of people who are going to turn up to the game.
Ooh.
Agreed.
All right, okay,
I
fellas.
hope West Coast win by that much.
Okay, and here we go. VitalDread is going to talk about the Operation Meetup at this weekend's game on Sunday night.
Just a big footy little announcement here. We're having a meet-up at the social club at level 1 at aisle 15. Probably maybe half an hour before the game starts. If you wish, come down, say hi, meet a few posters. You're going to get to see their faces and have a nice, lovely chat before we go out and smash North Melbourne. Hope to see you all there.
So are you going to be the guy that's walking around with a cutout picture of Pruden on your face?
If it's life size, it's going to be a bit hard to carry around, but I'll have him on my back, like Yoda. So just give me words of wisdom.
Very good. Okay, Western Bulldog supporters, don't forget, if you are going to the game, Social Club Aisle 15, Operation Meetup, we'll catch you all there. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us on the Western Bulldogs Big Footy podcast tonight. That wraps up tonight's cast. Again, the match on Sunday nights, 4:40 p.m. at Etihad Stadium. Thanks all for joining, and we'll see you all again next time.